While in Australia, our common ground is stable and strong enough to withstand various views, yet the corporate elites and the political left, they're silencing views which don't fit their narrative on this voice to Parliament proposal. I personally think it's divisive, unnecessary, but like most Australians, I remain concerned it will do nothing to assist Aboriginal peoples, but only feather the nests of the same elites. Big tech, well, it's now joined the bullying over the voice, refusing to allow considered alternative views to be promoted on platforms like Facebook. They believe in free speech, it seems, but only when they're doing the talking. Former Prime Minister Tony Abbott is just one of a range of prominent Australians concerned this corporate bullying is creating divisions that we don't need, and I'm delighted he's joining us tonight. Well, Tony Abbott, Happy New Year to you. In your time as Prime Minister, you showed the way in reconciling differences, finding common ground, sitting amongst Aboriginal communities. They are amongst some of the most vulnerable and marginalised communities in Australia. But a new bureaucratic construct in the Constitution is not going to help them.
Well, thanks, Gary. Happy New Year and happy birthday to you. You're right. As Prime Minister, I tried to spend at least a week a year in remote Australia to get to know the reality of Indigenous people's lives as opposed to simply what you were told by the media and by the bureaucrats. And there's no doubt that there are serious problems in remote Australia, that kids don't go to school as often as they should, adults don't go to work as often as they should, and the ordinary law of the land is not enforced as often as it should be. So there are certainly big problems, but creating another bureaucracy isn't going to help. This idea that yet another meeting in Canberra, yet another bureaucracy in Canberra is somehow going to get the kids to school, the adults to work and the community safe, it's just wrong. It's an exercise in wishful thinking. And my fear is that an abundance of goodwill could lead Australians to vote for something later this year that will turn out to be wrong in principle, bad in practice, but because it's entrenched in our Constitution, it will be almost impossible to reverse. But more than that, my other fear is that the government is trying to create a very unfair environment in which this debate can take place. They're not funding the yes and the no campaign. They are funding what they say will be a campaign against misinformation, and I fear that will end up being yes case propaganda. They have given tax deductibility to donations to the yes case, but not to the no case. I think they're relying on woke public companies to fund the yes case, and they're now relying on big tech to censor the no case. And we've so far had two instances of big tech taking down or demanding significant alterations to material which argues, I think, quite sensibly and intelligently, certainly quite fair-mindedly, the case for voting no. First of all, we had a debate hosted by the Institute of Public Affairs involving Senator Jacinta Price that was, at least for a time, taken down. And now we've got Facebook saying that an Advance Australia ad pointing out that this voice will involve special rights for 3% of the population to influence lawmaking for 100% of the population. That's been forced by big tech to be either withdrawn or changed. Now, it is going to involve special rights for some, but not for all. And I think people should be able to say that. And this idea that big tech isn't just going to be allowed to control what we say, it's going to be empowered to control what we think and the way we vote, I think that's deeply, deeply disturbing.